this movie is for people of color who haven't seen themselves on screen before. This movie is for young kids who are going through what they're going through.
Hey, it's Kristen, and this is a conversation that I had with Francesca Noel, who stars in Sundance Film Festival's Romeo and Juliet. Juliet is half of one of the most iconic love stories of all time. So what was it like taking on this role, and how did you prepare for it?
It was such an honor to take on this role, to be a woman of color in this iconic role, and to have this ability now for young women who look like me to see themselves on screen and to see themselves as beautiful and as so worthy. I actually had this Shakespeare collection of his works when I was 15, and I carried that like a Linus blanket. And I read Romeo and Juliet 13 times, something like that. So I was pretty well versed in what the story was. As far as preparing for the role, I really just wanted to focus on bringing authenticity and bringing this real 17-year-old to the role and making sure that I was encapsulating all that 17-year-olds are and were so emotional and so tumultuous, but also so strong. And I really wanted to find her in this space of post-Me Too and with all that Black Lives Matter has been through, and just let her be influenced by all the strength of those movements. So yeah, that was really important to me.
It's so cool to know that, Romeo and Juliet is a story that has been with you, that, has really like influenced you. The fact that you've read it so many times, that must just make this even more of like a project that you're just like,
Yeah, it was definitely a special one to get in my inbox for sure.
Like you mentioned, being a woman of color. I mean, that's one of the things that I really loved about this, was being able to see like a Latina leading this project, and just seeing, all these actors of color in these roles that like we don't necessarily always get to see ourselves in. So were you able to bring any of your own kind of experiences, and how did that influence you in this role?
I actually grew up in a very white community, and I was raised by 2 white women, and I really grew up with queer culture, with Woodstock culture, which is where I'm from. And I didn't really have much of a connection to any of my brown side. So when I walked onto the set and onto this experience, that was really the first time that I was stepping into who am I and who do I want to be, but also to be surrounded by all of these people of color who are so excited to be there and so loving and such a great community of support. And that was really amazing. So I'd say as I was going through it, this was very much a depiction of me trying to figure out who I am in that body and to play with these sides of me that I haven't really let out before. So, and to claim that identity as well as a woman now coming into adulthood. That's been a real journey, but I've really enjoyed being on it.
That's something that I really relate to. I'm also from New York and live in a very white community, but I'm Hispanic. And I feel like that's something that, we all can kind of connect with, of just like, trying to claim that. And so that's really cool that you were able to feel that on the set with this project. Now, Romeo and Juliet, obviously one of Shakespeare's most well-known plays, and this project gives the story a modern twist with that social media element, but still stays true to Shakespeare's words. So what was it like balancing those aspects of the project, from the script and the way it was filmed?
From the get-go, Carrie was very much like, we want this to be human. We want it to be kind of off the cuff, laissez-faire. We're not trying to give this royal Shakespeare performance. And I think for a lot of Shakespeare purists, this isn't going to be what they want. But maybe this movie isn't for them. This movie is for people of color who haven't seen themselves on screen before. This movie is for young kids who are going through what they're going through. And when it came to dissecting the Shakespeare, while keeping, the iambic pentameter and the meaning alive, we were really just trying to find humanity and authenticity. And Cameron and I both were very focused on just bringing reality to these roles.
What was it like working with Cameron?
He was really just a goofball and a ball of energy. I remember we were filming a scene where we were putting oil on each other's lips for the wedding, and we both couldn't stop cracking up. And it took us so long to get that scene because we were just concentrating on really intensely doing that. But yeah, he was a great presence. I think the crew in general was just very warm and welcoming. And there were so many different instances, like when I was singing at one point, and we were in an art studio, and I had 2 takes to get it right, and I had been crying all day from other scenes, and just being in this room full of people who were really supporting me and who were sitting there and they were smiling and they were watching and like being really respectful, and that was really great. So I think the whole community on set was just a delight.
That's always nice when you have, you know, that supportive, you know, collaborative experience.
Yes, definitely.
What do you hope that people take away from this film?
I really want specifically for young women of color to see themselves and have this moment of, oh my gosh, I'm worthy of love, and I'm worthy of being deemed beautiful, and I'm worthy of starring in my own narrative. I think that's something that I didn't have when I was younger, and I really looked for it. And, you know, it sounds kind of cliche and it sounds kind of like repetitive when people come on interviews and they say, well, I was really looking for that when I was younger and blah, blah, blah. But I really was, and I couldn't ever in anything find it. And maybe that was in part due to where I grew up and the influences I had around me. But I found it to be so cathartic to step into this role, and really, really therapeutic for me. To know that I was bringing that moment to someone else in addition to myself.
You definitely did. Like I said, I connected to the story, I connected to you, and I connected to your story hearing it now, you know, so I think you definitely achieved what you were trying to.
Thank you so much.
If you guys like this one, you can check out more of my Sundance Film Festival coverage right here, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.